Recorded live from the mats of Radical MMA in New York City. The Martial Culture Podcast. Your source for in-depth combat sports and martial arts insights with Coach Renee Dreyfus and Matt Peters. Ring the bell and let's get it on.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Martial Culture Podcast.
Hello, Matt.
Hi Renee, how are you?
My long-lost brother.
Yeah, it's been forever. People are asking for us.
No, they are. Everybody says, what happened to your podcast? Did you stop doing it? I'm like, no, Matt just doesn't want to see me anymore.
Well, I needed a break.
Yes.
Everybody needs a break.
You got sick. How you feeling now? You feeling better?
I feel great.
Wonderful. And happy birthday. You had a birthday.
Thank you. 25 years old finally. Nobody can see what I look like. Relax. It's fine. They don't know what's going on. We're joined in the studio. We love when we have in-studio guests, and we have with us Chris Romulo, also known as Crom.
Yes.
Let's find out what the history is behind that. You and Chris go back.
We go back a long time, and I was just saying to Chris, I'm so honored to call him a friend and a martial brother. We've known each other for how many years now? It's been over 10 years. Way over 10 years.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
You know, it's one of the things I'm very happy of is that I have so many people around me who can raise me up, and Chris was one of those guys that took me. You know, when you're around Chris, your level of positivity, your level of martial technique, your commitment, everything just gets better and better. And I cannot tell you enough how much I respect this guy. And of course, he's always been a great friend. And let me tell you, there's no quit in this guy. When you want to talk about being a martial artist, being a champ, we talked about on the podcast the 7 times down, 8 times up. That the martial journey is something about confronting hardship, confronting challenge, confronting tragedy, and then overcoming. And this man is in front of me right now. What year did you win the North American title?
That was 2010.
2010 North American Muay Thai champion, and against an opponent who everybody said, I remember he's like, oh, he won't win, and he came in and he just took care of business. It was amazing. And I was like, yes. It also helped because I bet on him. I had a gentleman's bet on him. I'm like, yes, I won.
He wins bets all the time.
I do. I just
he's lucky over there.
But anyway, Chris, tell us about yourself for the listeners who are not familiar with you. Your background and, you know.
I guess, where do I start?
How'd you get into martial arts?
I got into martial arts by my dad. My dad was a Taekwondo stylist back in the 80s. And I followed him to the dojo one day, and that was it. From that point on, I was about 8 years old, and I didn't even train that day. I just followed him to S. Henry Cho Dojo, which was like on 56th Street. I
remember that place.
Yeah. I mean, he was teaching before he passed away. He was teaching in the city for, I think, 40 years. Yeah, S. Henry Cho.
He's a pioneer.
Yeah, and so I walked up into this dojo, and it was just unreal. It was like a movie, you know. As a kid, you watch, Bruce Lee and the Saturday afternoon kung fu flicks. Maybe some of the younger guys might not know about that,
but we know about that.
Yeah. We have an old listener base.
Yeah, all right. So you guys can relate, but
drive-in theater.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Shaw Brothers.
The Shaw Brothers movie. Yeah, that was great. So that was how you got started, and I happen to know I read your book. It's Champions Uprising.
Yes.
I really think everybody should get a copy of it to see really an inspirational story. And tell us about your background and how martial arts changed your life for the better, because I know this you embody everything that I believe martial artists should be, and how you went from like you said, being on the edge of going the wrong way in your life to being positive and being a wonderful martial art champion and wonderful human being.
Thank you. I mean, it was, a crazy journey, just like anybody else, martial arts journey, I guess. But the reason why I followed my dad, or my mom made my dad take me to the dojo, was, I wanted to kind of bond with him because he was very unattached to the family. And, when I fell in love with Taekwondo just by watching what he was doing in the dojo, my dad, I asked my mom if I could join up, and, she finally signed me up. And from that point on, I've been involved. But from that point on, my dad also kind of quit. He kind of gave up and decided that, that it wasn't for him anymore. I to this day, I don't know what the reason is, but from that point on, we've always been distant. And, I stuck with it for a while until about 15 years old. And then I kind of made the jump into, just being a crazy teen and making bad decisions and wanting to hang out and be cool and do stupid things. And I did a lot of that from 15 to about
people
21.
Don't realize that in the 80s, New York was, it was a crazy place. For them. It was a place where if you wanted to find trouble, you found it. And yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know if we can go into all the trouble that we've been into, that I've been into, but you can definitely, I mean, and I wasn't in the big city. I was out in Queens Village, New York, which is,
but it was tough back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, there was a crack house on my block, so things were just, I mean, the norm for the 80s, I guess.
It was it's crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
And just martial arts kind of help you see the right path. And I know Tommy Tai was an inspirational figure for you, a martial art instructor here in New York, right? Yeah,
I mean, he was literally like my father for the time that he was around and that he helped me learn about Muay Thai and the culture of it. Yeah, he definitely he changed my life. Just martial arts in general it saved my life.
When did you start training Muay Thai?
I was about 22, 23. And
the Wikipedia page says 21.
21. All right. I was close, right? But so I guess around the early 20s. But I originally got into Muay Thai through a VHS. I mean, I don't know if you know the story, but I got into a street fight as a stupid kid or young adult, and nothing that I knew about or that I learned about martial arts helped me in that fight. Like, this kid just basically pummeled me to the ground, and it caused me to figure out, no, I got to get back into martial arts because I was on the wrong path, and he helped steer me back on the right path. And I found
sometimes beatings do that.
Wow.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What a correction change.
Yeah,
change the direction real easily.
Better than a GPS. Right?
No, it's funny how, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's funny how sometimes things we look at were very traumatic in our lives led us to different places that are more positive,
Well, yeah, at the time, I just thought it was, my world crumbled, right? But yeah, looking back at it, it was, if I saw this kid today, if I ran into him on the street, I mean, I would thank the guy, because he saved my life by almost beating me to death, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Intense, yeah.
Very cool. So I when I was doing some looking around about you on the internet, because I don't have the full background of knowing you for so long, but I see the motivational speaking. I mean, I was pumped this morning when I was watching your videos.
Nice. All right. Nice.
It's great stuff. And how did you get into to that arena?
After Muay Thai, after I retired from fighting, obviously as a fighter, you're an adrenaline junkie, I guess. So you're looking for that next thing to make you feel alive again. And, not that I wasn't training martial arts, but I wasn't in the ring in front of, whatever, hundreds or thousands of people. And I was looking, honestly, selfishly, I was looking for something for me at first. Like what would get me pumped every day to get up, not only run the gym and train fighters and help kids, but what would build that fear in me again. And public speaking was that. But then it turned into, I can take my story and help kids like that are in need, that are in trouble, that were just like me at 15 years old. They're knuckleheads. They're hanging out with the wrong people. They're doing drugs. They're alcoholics. Whatever. And that was it. I was just like, I can take this huge fear that I'm totally afraid of. Everybody's pretty much.
You used to not like speaking in front of people. I mean, it's great to see you blossom, but I've known you for so long that I remember you were a little bit more reserved in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I would keep a lot of anger and feelings inside. I mean, in my junior year of high school, I cut out an entire semester of speech class because I just didn't want to talk about what I did last summer. So I feel like that was a fear that I'm still overcoming. It's not easy. I still get, the butterflies, and I'm like shadow boxing behind the curtains just to psych myself up. But, I mean, if it can help me and then help, these kids, that's what I'm here for.
That's an amazing quote that I heard many years ago, and it always resonates with me. It's everything you want in life that is worthwhile is on the other side of fear.
Nice.
And fear is that marker that says you have to go past this. You need to be here. So anytime you feel fear, that says this is your lodestar where you must go. This is where you need to go, because what you need to do is beyond this. And that's where growth is. And everything that you need, everything that's worthwhile, everything to make your life a higher level of satisfaction and just in personal, what's the word I'm looking for? Self-actualization is always on the other side of fear. And some people, are not willing to do that. But, your martial art journey said, okay, I have a fear of public speaking, but you look at you now, you're amazing, And if you guys heard him speak, I recommend checking out his videos. They're amazing, inspirational. They speak to me, and we have a different relation because we're friends. But sometimes I look at the video and I stop seeing you as a friend. I see you as that amazing motivational speaker who just inspires me. And you did a fantastic job.
Thank you. I mean, going off of that a little, or on that topic, like fear, I feel like, we manifest fear in our heads, I mean, there's real fear. Obviously, you have to fear, deranged human beings, wild animals and falling to your death, right? But everything else, what are we really fearing?
Right.
What's the worst that could happen? Yeah, embarrassment. What's the worst that could happen? I get up on stage, all right, you get some kids that make fun of me, but is that the worst thing that could happen?
Just beat them up a little bit.
But it's interesting because most people find social fear more crippling in terms of action than they actually do physical fear.
Right.
And so I'll give you an example. There's a great study about airplane pilots, and we mentioned this on the podcast, that they found that, especially in Asian cultures, which are much more hierarchical in the Korean culture, the fear of stepping out of your cultural role between the pilot and the co-pilot was so strong, and kind of like, not being respectful, and also maybe getting yelled at or this or that or whatever. That fear is so strong that even when the pilot's wrong and the plane is going to crash, the co-pilot doesn't say anything.
Wow.
And then the co-pilot's like, crap, this is scary. But his
Wow.
fear, his social fear, his anxiety in the social realm is incredibly strong, because we're social animals.
Right.
It's irrational, but at the same time, it is very rational because we are social creatures.
So these pilots wouldn't want to overstep their boundaries.
Yeah.
Wow.
The co-pilot realizes the pilot makes a mistake, and he knows that something's wrong. And yet the especially in Asian cultures is very the hierarchy is so strong.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, if I step out and correct him, it's going to be bad, and then I'm and this anxiety, and then they die.
Wow. The fear of death kick in.
Right. No, you would think that. You would think that, but it's not the case.
Wow.
Also, in self-defense is a very interesting thing. I believe it was the University of Texas at San Antonio did it. I forget which but they did a study of people who've been assaulted, mostly women, and they said, would you use the Krav Maga, eye gouging techniques? And, they basically studied people who had these assault experiences and figured out how many times they actually stuck their finger in the guy's eye to escape. And these are people who had actually had that kind of Krav Maga type eye gouge training.
Right.
And when I say Krav Maga, I don't just mean, I'm just using it as a catchphrase for
street fighting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like the women's self-defense, I stick your finger in an eye. And they never used it. Even when they had the opportunity to, because we're so socialized to be a certain way. In this case, to be nice people, to be a good girl. And your parents, when you're 2 years old, say, don't stick your finger in your brother's eye.
Yeah, it feels gross.
And there's these social constructs in our mind that you can't tear down, and they come when we're young. Then they build so strong that they are these large walls, these barriers, these blockades that we have to kind of get through. And they said this is why it's not efficient or as effective to teach eye gouging to escape, because most people, unless they go through 9 weeks of boot camp in the military,
right,
they don't do that, because they have to break down those socializations
Wow.
You know, so even the fear of death is not enough to stop you or rape or whatever from sticking your finger in the eye to escape, even if it would be the effective thing to do. I mean, obviously that's not everybody. I always joke, my mom would have no trouble sticking her finger. So she'd be like,
Steer clear of your mom.
She's like, yeah.
That is interesting.
Come here.
Exactly. All she needs is her little flip flop or something to hit me with, you know, belt. She'd go to town.
I've definitely been in social situations where I'm not sure what. I moved to New York City 3 years ago, and we used to do our laundry in Hell's Kitchen around there. And we went to this restaurant across from the laundromat, and this guy came in, this homeless man came in and just started yelling at this one guy just sitting there, just calling him all these sorts of names. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what do I do something? Right. I didn't know what to do, but then I was like, there was like that fear of what does he have a knife? This guy's just yelling at him. Is it worth me getting involved?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And you have to understand, and I don't want to take the time away from Chris, but there's a neurochemistry of, in everything we do. You know, whether if it's an emotion of fear is a chemical. And when your limbic system, which is your fight or flight, which is actually not just fight or flight, but that you know, danger system is it's fight, flight, and if you're not trained to deal with that adrenaline rush, it's also freeze. Because you can't so that's why one reason is martial art training is so good. Even if it's just, you know, whatever, it helps you get in touch with that system to be able to guide your adrenaline more effectively. This is one reason why I tell people, everybody to step in the ring. There are very few things as scary as stepping into the ring with someone you know wants to hurt you. And if you can surf that adrenaline and guide your neurochemistry in a way to deal with that fear, you grow and beyond it, and you master yourself and your to be able to, hopefully not in a life situation, but in any situation, to surf that neurochemistry. And you know, when we lived in the Sahara and you know we were fighting saber-toothed tigers, you know 8,000 years ago, we had these adrenaline dumps.
I missed that class.
Yeah, I wasn't there. No, you know, you had these adrenaline dumps like, you know, 5 times a day maybe. You know, but modern humans don't have that. You maybe have an adrenaline dump like that once a year, maybe never. And so you don't know how to deal with it.
We are definitely comfy. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. And it's the trap of civilization that we're civilized and we don't feel life-threatening fear all the time. But then that means we lost touch with a certain way of dealing with their neurochemistry when we're faced with problems. Right. And the most common element is just fear. I mean, I'll tell you, I was in a competition setting, and I won't take too much time because I want Chris to talk, and I talk too much. But I was in a competition setting once early in my martial art career, and I just froze. I did nothing against someone who I would beat in the academy all the time.
Wow. Because
I was young martial artist, and the you know, the choke, you know, you're choking, not a real choke, but you know, that mental, you just can't master. You just don't do anything. Yeah. And so that happened to me. But Chris, I'll let the mic go to you, and you always have some great wisdom to say. So I'm going to shut up.
No. I mean, this is great because I love doing these podcasts because you get different opinions and different insights, and I'm always learning stuff just by listening too. You know. Yeah.
I mean, how did you deal with fear in your competitive Muay Thai career?
You know, the fear that I had. It was nothing compared to the fear of not pushing myself. You know, I guess there was a comparison, right? Did I want to go the rest of my life thinking I could have, or I should have? I didn't want to live with that. I'd rather live with the fear of, all right, maybe I'll get knocked out in the ring, maybe or whatever, and I'll lose, maybe I'll look bad, but I didn't want to. Because at an earlier time in my life, I would quit at everything. I was a quitter for a long time, and I just didn't want to be that quitter anymore. And I knew when I found Muay Thai that this was going to be a way to kind of make up for all that time as a kid where I said, I'm too scared to do that. I used to break dance, and I think
I've actually seen you break dance. Very good.
It's probably pretty bad right now.
No, in Velocity in the old days.
Yeah, all right. the old days. Yeah, that's the key word right there. But I was maybe 13, I think, and I would break dance in front of my house, and this crew called the Dynamic Rockers came by, one of the, a group of them, and they were like, "Oh, you should come down and jam with us one time at a local church." I was like, "Yeah, let's do that. I want to do that. I want to be down with your crew, right?" So I went over to their church. I think it was on a Sunday morning, and they were all jamming downstairs in the basement. You can hear the music, and I walked to the bottom step, and I turned around, and I never walked in because of fear. And that beats me up. You know, I don't care about breakdancing nowadays. Like, I mean, it's not my thing, but, you know.
Who knows?
No, but it's that journey of that fear conquered you.
Yeah, it conquered me. And I hold on to stuff like that. And I say, you know what? I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the other guy. The guy that takes fear and says, you know what? Unless I'm facing some wild animal or some deranged human being, and you do face that in the ring sometimes, but you know, or falling to your death, I'm just gonna go for it.
And you know, Rickson Gracie has some amazing thing to say, and he says, if you don't feel fear, you're a psychopath. So everybody feels fear. He's like, I always felt fear in the ring. It's just not letting fear take control of your life. Not letting it control you is what you do.
Right.
And I think that's always true. Like, fear is a great way to make you wake up and say, whoa, this is, you know, like the other day we were training knife defense, and we use this taser knife, you know, and, you know, you kind of feel that fear because that taser knife really hurts. And you're like, suddenly I feel my heart really beating, like not like normal training. You're like, holy crap, this is gonna hurt so bad. This is gonna hurt so bad. and then you're like, okay, I gotta calm down. You gotta like kind of go back because you have to get shocked with it like 3 or 4 times. You're just like freaking out.
I gotta come train with you guys. I like the way you guys.
Can you bring that next week?
I will absolutely. Oh my God, that should be the next bed thing. Oh yes, whoever loses the bet gets tasered.
Let's do it. I've never been tasered before.
We've had bets. I lost 1, but I won 2.
Yeah.
So every time I win 1, I put him in like
he's
a
lucky
submission.
over here.
Anyway, go ahead. So you had an illustrious career in Muay Thai, and you said that you were fear of looking bad in front of your family and some, and that sometimes that happened where you got knocked out. But how did you take those losses and move past them? Because I know you did.
It was just really focusing on what I told myself as a kid. You know, when I was about 8 years old, and I still carry it to this day. This is the reason why I go out and I go to these schools and I try to inspire the kids. And, you know, we run the gym, you know, out in Rockaway. I just want to make a name for myself. You know, it sounds selfish, but for me to do that, I need to serve as many people as possible. And, you know, when my dad was giving up on the family, I didn't want to follow in his footsteps. I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to be the other guy, the guy that was doing stuff that was positive and helping other people. And, you know, when I lost, you know, whether I won or I lost, I just knew that, you know, I'm still here. I'm alive. I can roll out of bed, you know, somewhat, you know, depending how badly I was injured. Yeah. And I just knew that, you know, I'm still here on this mission, and you're going to have, you know, life is going to have to just kill me, you know, to stop me, you know?
So speaking of a loss and kind of dealing with those kind of things, your academy, your school during Hurricane Sandy suffered a great loss.
Right.
How did you kind of overcome that and rebuild? What was the process going there?
It was honestly like words, you know. I was sitting, you know, and a thought in our heads. We were sitting at my mom's, you know, on my mom's kitchen table watching, you know, Hurricane Sandy roll through on the news and drown out Rockaway. And my wife was just sitting there crying. She had her head down on the table. And, you know, I mean, the fight world obviously helped me, you know, try to maintain composure. But, you know, I told her, I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we're going to come back. We're going to come back bigger and better than before. You know, I told her, trust me, we're going to fight. We're going to get back up and we're going to fight. And that's all I've ever done in my fighting career. You know, I mean, I've never been the best fighter. I've never been, you know, the most talented. I was never the fastest. I was never the most powerful.
Humility right there, because this guy is really good. Anyway,
but
I have to disagree. You have some pretty awesome stuff, especially when you catch the guy's kick and hit him with a cross.
But you know, I would always to the end of my days, I'll always say that you're gonna have to kill me. You're not gonna stop me, because I'm gonna get back up. You know, as long as I'm able-bodied to, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep fighting. So that's the only thing that honestly got us through Hurricane Sandy, because we didn't have any money. You know, we didn't we didn't have investors for the gym. We had the belief. We had people in our community that were willing to stick around and help us rebuild. We had people from all over the country, donate money, donate, anything that they could to help us out. And I believe that all came from just the passion I put into what I did in the ring. I mean, I always put my heart out there, and, not knowing that there would be a return, but there was a return because of everything that I put into what I did. It came back to me just when we needed it. And we didn't do it alone by any means. We didn't. It was help from all kinds of people in the Muay Thai martial arts community that, literally like put out a hand and said, "Here, let's get back up."
That's great.
That's awesome. It's nice when the community comes together.
Yeah.
And also, I maybe you don't know, but you do a lot of speaking to the community for at-risk youth.
Right.
So that's wonderful how Chris is also giving back as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, we were talking before the podcast. If we had more mentors when at our age, when we were like teetering on that line of right path or wrong path, like that's all I'm trying to do. Like in our community in Far Rockaway, you have a good mix of different economic classes, and there's really, people that are in a bad place, and there's people that are in, better places. But those kids that aren't in a bad place, that's not their fault. You can't blame anyone. All you can say is, look, you know what? Let's give these kids an option. Maybe they take it, maybe they don't. Because look, over the years, there have been plenty of kids that we've tried to help out, and they don't want it, or they don't understand how to appreciate it or take the help,
Yeah.
So
It's interesting. The mentality, you say some of those kids can't take the help.
Yeah.
The mentality of just being beaten down for years that maybe you just feel like you're not worth it.
Yeah.
That's really, really, really sad.
And I think it's also like to accept help, you have to be a student. And to me, that's also part of we were talking about the martial journey, is that you start out as, Luke Skywalker and your mentor is Obi-Wan, you don't start out as Obi-Wan, but you have to be a student. And there's a humility there that has to come. But some people have their guard up so much that it's just hard for them to be a student. They very anti-authoritarian or something like that. And reaching those people is extremely difficult, So you just can't help everybody, but you try to help the people you can, But the martial art journey starts with you being, for lack of a better word, being humble and the when we think of like a martial art movies, we're talking about the Shaw Brothers. What do you have to do? You have to sit outside a Shaolin temple for 8 days in the rain before they even let you in.
Like Fight Club.
Yeah, right, exactly right. So anyway, that was wonderfully inspirational. You were talking about a book you're reading recently too. I think Chris is always a very interesting guy. He always has some really interesting things to say about human psychology as well. So just if you could tell us about what you were saying before and what you're reading right now.
So the book, I haven't finished it yet. It's a really good book if anybody wants to pick it up. It's called Warrior. Oh man, now I'm drawing a blank on this. Warrior, I believe hero, magician, and then lover. I could be wrong, but I think
Dungeons
that's
and Dragons game.
Yeah. So it's based on the archetypes of humans. We go through these phases in our lives, and one of them that stuck out for me was the archetype of being a high chair tyrant. Basically, a little baby sitting in a high chair, kicking and screaming, and throwing their food on the ground, kicking everything over because they want what they want, and they're going to do anything. They're going to make as much noise as they possibly can to get their attention of their mom or dad to get what they want.
Right. You cease being a student. You cease being a mentor. You just become noise in the room.
Yeah, because it's all about me.
Yeah,
it's me. Look at me. I need this. I need that. Help me now because
we're talking about New York culture.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are high chair tyrants. And we were talking about Conor McGregor, and a lot of people worship the guy. A lot of people, appreciate what he's done for the mixed martial arts world and what he's done for the UFC, but me being trying my best to be a role model and like a father figure to these young kids, like,
It's
there's
just
a lot.
terrible,
There's a
yeah.
lot of kids that look up to him, and they look at what he does, and throwing these tantrums, and they think this is what they need to do as martial artists, and for me, I take it personally because it's like a slap in the face. You're trying to be this I'm trying to be this martial artist that shows humility and respect and positivity, and you have. This billionaire now who's he can get away with whatever he wants and throw these tantrums, and it's crazy.
And it's I totally agree with you. It's I can't say that it's a lot of traditional martial arts people I know, they hate MMA. They don't hate MMA as a in terms of technique. They're very interested in it because they come from the traditional world, like the Taekwondo world or karate world, and they're like, well, we want to evolve. We want to add in ground technique. We want to add in wrestling. We want to be part of this cusp of evolution of technique. But what they don't like is the prize fighting sideshow and the behavior that, I don't even think Conor McGregor's the worst. I think the worst is what's his name?
Jones?
No. He's not, the guy from American Top Team. What's his name? Colby Covington. That guy's like, he's even. McGregor was violent, so that's bad too. But Colby Covington just is. He was like Chael Sonnen times 100.
Wow.
He's just.
I'm not even familiar with him. Honestly,
he's just terrible. What he says, the way he conducts himself is terrible. He's not a bad fighter, but he's a fighter, not a martial artist. Now, I'm not making a judgment on his life. He can live his life any way he wants, but. It does when I don't want to forget those old martial values of humility, integrity, loyalty, honor, politeness, and manners. There's an old Japanese proverb: martial arts begins and ends with courtesy and respect.
Right.
And just being a douchebag is it's not something I aspire to. But then again, you've seen that in boxing all the time. They're people who you can respect. You see it in Muay Thai, I'm sure. You see it and honestly, you see it in the traditional martial arts too.
Yeah.
I've seen so many traditional martial artists that are just awful people, like Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
And so it's not like Muay Thai or MMA. I'm sorry, it's not like MMA has a monopoly on the idiots in the world. It's just they do get more press, and they are outsized role models. Unfortunately, it's a shame that he's.
If they had, I like to believe that I've lived by these. I call them champion cornerstones, right? If these guys that are out there making noise and making all, being these high chair tyrants, if they had these 4 cornerstones, I truly believe like mixed martial arts, boxing, Muay Thai would be what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be full of, hunger, right? Humility, hard work, and heart. If they only focus on those 4 things, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about how, Conor McGregor likes to throw, hand trucks through glass windows. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
We've all been there, but we've not all been. What is he? 35 years old now or something? He's old enough.
Yes.
To know better.
Yeah.
But he's not 12 years old.
Yeah. And some people say that it was slightly scripted or whatever. I don't even know. But if that is the case, that even disturbs me more. That's
worse, I think.
There'd be a collusion to be so
manipulative.
And definitely the UFC, which I'm a UFC fan because they are the premier organization for the sport, and they put on compelling shows. The last few UFCs have been very, very compelling and had some great talent and some really good interactions of fighters. But at the same time, the way they're using that incident to market the upcoming championship fight it kind of turns my stomach. But at the same time, I'll be honest, I'm a kind of a hypocrite because I'm like, I can't wait to see him kick the crap again. Like I'm like, I cannot wait to see Khabib, Matt return him and just beat the snot out of him.
Well, it's like when you're caught in traffic, right? On you know, I don't know. Have you ever been on traffic on the Van Wyck Expressway?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like when there's traffic and you're backed up for miles, and you know there's cars for all you see is brake lights, and then all of a sudden you see the accident on the side of the road, and you're like, why isn't anybody moving? But as soon as you get close enough, you're slamming on the brakes to see what happened. Right? You gotta see what happened. You can't resist it. But yeah, that's
no, you're right. You just can't really like whatever. This is a sideshow that we just are a part of.
I've been trying to watch one FC.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, the talent there is unreal.
It's growing. Yeah. Definitely. They have some fighters that are impressive. I also like the shape of their ring. It's interesting.
The circular.
Yeah. And it's like it's instead of an octagon, it's like a more reinforced ring.
Yeah.
I think it bodes well to have a more world talent organization that feed in.
Right.
And I know.
Well, they bring in a lot of Thai guys too. So, which
yes,
I mean, obviously, I'm going to be more partial to the Muay Thai fighters jumping over into MMA. There's like a legend of Muay Thai. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head because Thai names are like 15 syllables long. But he's in there and he's dominating in his weight class. It's cool to watch that.
That does. What is your opinion? I don't want to veer off too much the topic, but what is your opinion on the MMA striking and how it's evolving? How do you see the striking going forward?
I mean, it's how would I say? I mean, it's when Joe Rogan.
Who's your favorite MMA fighter to watch in terms of striking?
It's tough because I don't watch a lot of UFC anymore because of all the stuff that's going on. I personally,
so you're not a hypocrite like me.
I personally boycott. It's been actually a while now because honestly I didn't have the time to keep up. Like they're doing shows like seems
almost
like 3 times a week. Yeah. But who's a good striker in the UFC? I wouldn't. I'd probably give you a name that's probably so irrelevant right now. So I don't even want to.
Well, who did you like back when you were watching it?
Well, I mean, Anderson Silva was super creative.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't a traditional Muay Thai stylist by any means.
He's like you started out in Taekwondo as well.
But he was very creative with his strikes. Until life caught up to him.
Yeah.
Until he got too creative.
Too creative. Right. 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 When you break the rules too much and you don't have the speed to standing square in front of a guy with your hands down.
Yeah. Against a young wrestler.
Yeah. Who, hits like a freight train.
Yeah.
Do you remember that fight? Where he's just standing in front of the guy with his hands are down and square, and he's just like taunting him. Then he gets hit. He's like, and he's still taunting. Then he gets hit and knocked out. You're like, what are you doing? Put your hands up. What was I going to say? So, what is your take, Matt, on the upcoming fights? The Khabib and the Conor McGregor.
I think it's obviously going to be a great event.
Yeah.
The whole card is stacked.
Really good. Yeah, stacked. Yeah.
I don't know. I think Conor's going to lose. Do you think so?
I thought we betted that I was gonna.
Did we bet? We have to go back. It's been too long. Yeah. But I think he's gonna lose. But I think it'll go all the way.
You think so?
I do.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think it'll just go to the decision
because they might stalemate each other.
Yeah,
they're thinking because
he's gonna play defensive a little bit, and then
you think Khabib is gonna play defensive?
Yeah, just gonna dance for a while. Or Conor's going to come out like a crazy person and try to put on a great show.
I have to say that obviously Conor McGregor's skilled, but I see a lot of mistakes in his striking that he overcomes through mental warfare. And I think he's one of the best mental. I mean, he's kind of says douchebag things, but he's also really good at mental warfare, at getting his opponents absolutely under their skin so they come out at their worst. One of my favorite examples of this is when he was fighting, what's his name for the 155 title? The guy who actually is not that good. Anyway, so this fighter said how they interviewed him like a year before he was even going to fight Conor McGregor. They didn't even, I said, how would you beat Conor McGregor? Well, I would never circle into his power hand. You know, I'd make sure I'd never do that.
Right.
Circle away from his power hand, circle away, and you know, keep it, but do this, and then hit a shot. And the minute it goes into the fight, he's circling towards the power hand, and he's like it's the 155 guy who's fights out in Jersey. Eddie Alvarez.
Oh, Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
Eddie Alvarez. So you know, what does he do in the fight? He does the exact opposite of what he knew he should do. And they asked him after the fight, you said you should do this. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just like, and then the whole fight, his coach is like, you're circling the wrong way. You go the other way, And he just wants to kill him because he's so pissed at him. He's walking into the fight right there, and he's not doing everything he shouldn't do. Jose Aldo was the same thing. And Nate Diaz not so much, but that's when the second fight was, you know, more of a stalemate. Right, obviously Conor McGregor did win it, but it wasn't, you know, as competitive because I think Nate Diaz dealt with that. You know, he's like, you ain't trash talking me, and you're not getting in my head.
Yeah.
But Nate Diaz did not have the tools, particularly takedown tools that Khabib does. I see the fight as a typical striker grappler matchup, and I think, you know, if it gets to clinch, Khabib has a tremendous advantage. Right. And while Conor McGregor's jiu-jitsu is good and his wrestling is good, you know, Khabib is on another level. So I think the first round, the second round will be, you know, kind of the same, and then probably by the third or fourth it'll finish, if not earlier than that. Unless Khabib comes out like stupid and gets clocked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which could make for a boring fight, right? Because it could be Khabib just, you know, on top and.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't find those fights boring. I like seeing Khabib on top beating up people.
Ovich for 5 rounds and
oh, you know, nobody complained about Tito Ortiz back in the day. That's all
true.
he ever did. You
That's
know,
true. Yeah.
So I don't know. I like the skill of holding a guy down and beating him. Right. But I understand what you mean. It's less action packed.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For the average fan, right?
Right.
They're like, well, stand them back up. They still do it to this day. I don't. You know, I don't get it. I appreciate watching the ground fighting too, but I mean, I'm just saying for the average fan.
Oh, no, for
sure.
Yeah.
And definitely Khabib is interesting because he doesn't go for the typical jiu-jitsu strategy of taking the back. What he does, he dominates in his own way of kind of like turkeying the leg or controlling the leg. And he uses the the kind of half back take position to launch strikes, which is very interesting. To punish him. It's very interesting, something we're copying in the academy.
Nice.
And what I like to see is, like, most people define striking as like Muay Thai striking or boxing striking or kickboxing striking, but striking is anywhere. And most people define grappling as like wrestling or judo or jiu-jitsu on the ground, but there's these hybrid elements. And what I love about Khabib is he's always exploring these hybrid elements. Nice. And seeing, like, one example was the last UFC where it was the main event, the guy shot in for a takedown, and he shot in like a wrestler. It was Eric Anders. He shot in like a wrestler. His head actually a little bit more like a football guy because he's a football guy. So it wasn't even such a great wrestling takedown. But he was against the cage. And a lot of guys do it. They drop their head. And you know, when you're hitting a single leg, when your head is down, that's okay in wrestling. So he's on that single. He's hitting the head. But then his opponent just starts teeing off with elbows as he defends the single. And it's like, okay, we're not in wrestling, but we're not really in Muay Thai either. We're like in this hybrid zone. Right. But that's MMA. Mm-hmm. And I saw that happen, the same thing with Travis Brown versus the War Master, Josh Barnett. Right. He came in, his head was a little too low, and the guy went bam, bam. And there's a lot of these like hybrid places. And the fighters, I think, that are going to really grow are the ones who explore those hybrid things. One of the things is why I like TJ Dillashaw is, like, he'll fake a shot, then the guy will go down, then he'll come up with the uppercut, then he'll switch stance, throw a kick, and then hit another shot. Nice. Yeah. You know, it's like, it's not just punching, kicking, it's not just grappling, and you're setting up you're grappling with your strikes, and you're striking with your grappling. So the guy's got to go down low to not get taken down. When he goes down low, you hit him with the uppercut. You know, it's very interesting, and you know, it's nice to see that evolution, and that's what I like. That's why I watch the UFC all the time, and I don't boycott because but I appreciate. I think
can't
that's a great
afford
thing.
the pay-per-views.
Oh man.
Yeah, I have this anyway, never mind.
Oh, we got to talk later.
But they have so many free stuff on FS1.
Yeah,
The last one was free. But it's like I turn the sound off because I respect Joe Rogan, but I don't want to hear, this is the best fight in the history of the universe. This is the most awesome case. Okay, yeah, get it, right. And I turn the sound off very often or very low, and I really try to watch what's going on and review and see the evolution. There's some fighters that they're the same fighter they were 10 years ago, but there's certain fighters who are really pushing the envelope, and I really like where they're going. And how they're creating a new martial art, which is MMA. It's a hybrid of three, and it's in the transitions.
I mean, those guys that are still fighting from 10 years ago, they definitely they should be evolving in other directions.
Yeah, well, that Nogueira just won.
Really?
Rogerio, not the younger one, but he came in. I'm like, oh my God, they're putting him to the lambs, the lambs to the slaughter. Where he's been out 2 years for an injury. Yeah. He comes back in. I'm like, oh man, and he knocked the guy out.
Okay, I stand corrected.
I'm sorry.
Tito Ortiz is fighting.
They're back fighting, and you know who's promoting the card?
Bellator, isn't it?
No, I think it's a boxing guy. What's
DeBella?
No, it's
boxing guy.
He's the guy who wore the panties.
The panties.
Yeah, Jagger Hoover?
No.
De La Hoya.
De La Hoya. Right?
Oh, sorry. I had to think for a second.
You're right. It's De La Hoya is actually starting to do his own MMA show.
Wow.
That's
interesting.
Liddell.
Yeah, that's what I heard at least.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And Liddell is coming back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long has it been?
As long as it's like veteran versus veteran, they'll come on their wheelchairs. Somebody will use their walker to get him into the cage, and then they'll start fighting.
It's funny. Somebody offered me, a decent amount of, prize money to make a comeback, and I'm just like, nah.
Really?
Yeah, no way. No. It's just, it would do it injustice.
I would love to see you in the ring.
And injustice to the sport. Come on, I'm turning 44 in November. Like, who wants to see a 44-year-old jump back in the ring?
A lot of people.
I don't know.
Did you guys ever tussle?
No,
we trained together.
No.
So I was watching one of your videos this morning, and I want to make sure we talk about this because it was a very interesting story that you mentioned. It was the Buddha covered in mud.
Right.
I love that story. I've never heard it before. I don't know if it's something that's commonly talked about, but was that a true story? First question.
I mean, I came across it through my own, research and motivation and inspiration. I heard about it, not too long ago. But
I'm not familiar with.
Really?
So the story is, there's this village in Thailand where the villagers had this precious golden Buddha. And they got wind of the Burmese coming in to try to ransack. This is back during the feudal times when Burma was trying to take over. And they decided, all right, we got to protect our prized possession here in the village. So they covered up this golden Buddha with clay and dirt and mud to mask, the gold that it was made of. So the Burmese came in, and unfortunately they killed everyone in the village, but they didn't pay attention to this Buddha because they just thought it was a statue. So years go by, and this village is not occupied until a traveler comes by and decides to pray and kneel at this golden Buddha, and he notices this little shimmering light, at its feet. And, he starts to try to chip away a little, and then he runs to another village and he says, look, I think I found, a treasure. So they bring in all these people and they uncover this golden Buddha, and, it's still standing to this day, So I use that story to try to get kids to understand that we're all golden Buddhas, whether you're a Buddhist or not, we're all golden Buddhas, but life covers us up with dirt and clay to mask what's really inside of us, and we don't find that one thing to start chipping away at what's covering us up, right? So I really think it's a powerful story, and whether it's true or not, I mean, honestly, it's
doesn't matter.
It's a powerful,
wonderful metaphor,
yeah.
and it has this a sense of truthfulness because that was a common thing to do. Even in Japan, I've heard stories, not the same thing, but similar, like to hide the stores underneath the underneath the buildings. It sounds very,
Yeah.
I'm sure it was
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I just love that story.
Yeah,
I mean,
right,
you
right.
can't hear it and not think, oh,
Yeah.
shit. What's covering me up?
Very inspirational.
Yeah.
But so tell us where you're up to. You're doing more speaking these days.
Yeah,
and what's your schedule like? Can somebody check you out or?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely go to my website. I'm on Instagram. If you go to my website, it's chrisromulo.com. Right now you could download free. I have something called the Champions Creed. It's a PDF, and I laid out these. I think it's I forgot now, but it's 10 or 11 things that I think that constitute a champion. And if I listen to it because I kind of put it on an MP3 and I listen to it every morning to try to I need the motivation just as much as I'm trying to put it out. I'm only human. I'm imperfect and I make mistakes and I get lazy and I falter. But I use this stuff that I put out in the world to motivate me too. So
that's great.
Yeah.
No, wonderful. So I also everybody recommend grabbing your book Champions Uprising, which is just absolutely fantastic book. And when did you come out with it?
That was 2017.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a really inspirational story. It tracks your life and your champion fight with Sean Hines and all the other pivotal moments in your life. Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, you can get that on Amazon. But I'm actually I just started a new book.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's slow going.
What's the can you say what it's about?
It's too early, but
early,
I'm just working on something that hopefully that's a little more of a not fighting, but it's not fighting tactics, but life tactics. I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people it's technique has to meet tactics and strategy. Otherwise, though, you don't have success.
Right.
And I think there's a great Sun Tzu quote. It's battle without tactics and strategy is the sound of defeat, or something like that.
Right.
And it's not enough to be in great shape and have great arm bars and great jab and cross. It's how you use those tools.
Yeah.
So I would look forward to the life tactics.
Yeah. I don't know how long that's going to take.
You got 6 months. We wanted to read it. So we talked in the beginning. Your nickname, Crom.
Yes.
We teased it. Where did it come from? The story.
I obviously grew up watching, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Conan the Barbarian was like, that was a life-changing movie. Anyway, Crom. I didn't follow the chronicles of Conan the Barbarian that deep, but from that movie, Crom was Conan's god. So, and it just happens to be, my first initial and first 3 letters of my last name. So C-Rom is Crom, and so it's like a J-Lo thing, I guess.
You guys have a lot in common.
It's not that deep, but
that's a cool story.
That is great. Well, it was really wonderful talking with you, and we got to have you on again too if you can come out from Rockaway again.
Oh yeah. Anything to get me off of the rock for the day and get on the ferry. I love riding that ferry.
That's a beautiful ride. Actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My wife last summer, and I went out to Rockaway Beach. We didn't want to bother you, but we went out.
You should have.
I was like, he's probably busy, but we went out there and we hung out on the beach, and it's people don't realize, the listeners who are not in New York, that New York actually has some really nice beachfront area.
Oh yeah.
And so Anyway, we'll come out and visit again.
For sure. Definitely come by.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having it again. It's your website is again.
It's chrisromulo.com.
Right. And do you want to also check you up on Instagram? Or?
Yeah, Instagram, and I'm my wife handles a lot of my social media, so I think I'm on LinkedIn.
Your wife works at the gym as well, right?
Yeah, she's the boss. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
I give a shout out to my wife, Sarah.
Like.
Yeah, she's the boss. I just take orders.
Okay. That's the right answer.
Me too. I don't know how that happened.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
This is fantastic.
Yeah,
all right,
awesome.
take care.